On completion of 4 years of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana (PMMSY) initiatives launched to transform fisheries sector includes National Fisheries Development Program portal created under Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Sahyojana sub-scheme under PMMSY. Establishing Mandapam Regional Center of Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute as a center of excellence for promoting seaweed farming and research. Priority projects included development of 5 integrated aqua parks in Assam, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Tripura and Nagaland, establishment of 2 world-class fish markets in Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. The PMMSY is an umbrella scheme with 2 separate components, namely Central Sector Scheme (CAs) and Centrally Sponsored Scheme (CSS). The Centrally Sponsored Scheme (CSS) component is further segregated into non-beneficiary-oriented and beneficiary-orientated subcomponents. India is the 3rd largest fish producing and 2nd largest aquaculture producing nation in the world. India is the 4th largest exporter of fish and fisheries products, with a growth in exports of 26.73% in terms of quantity between FY 2021-22 and FY 2022-23. Andhra Pradesh is the largest fish producer in the country, followed by West Bengal and Gujarat. Government initiatives for the growth of the sector. National Fisheries Development Board (NFDB) established in 2006. NFDB serves as the apex body for the planning and promotion of fisheries development in India. Blue Revolution, launched in 2015, the Blue Revolution aims to promote sustainable development and management of the fisheries sector. Sagarmala Program. The Sagarmala Program, launched in 2015, aims to promote port-led development and unlock the potential of India's maritime sector. It includes initiatives to develop fishing harbors, cold chain infrastructure, and fish processing facilities to support the growth of the fisheries sector. National Fisheries Policy. The Government of India formulated the National Fisheries Policy in 2020 to provide a comprehensive framework for the sustainable development of the fisheries sector. Fish Farmers Development Agencies (FFDAs). The government has established FFDAs at the district level to provide technical guidance, training, and extension services to fish farmers. In order to address the infrastructure requirement for fisheries sector, the Union Government during 2018-19 created the Fisheries and Aquaculture Infrastructure Development Fund (FIDF). Coastal Aquaculture Authority (CAA). The CAA regulates and promotes coastal aquaculture activities to ensure sustainable development and environmental conservation. It formulates guidelines for shrimp farming, regulates the use of coastal land for aquaculture purposes, and monitors compliance with environmental norms to prevent adverse impacts on coastal ecosystems. World Health Organization (WHO) releases its first-ever guidance to tackle antibiotic pollution from manufacturing processes. Initiatives to tackle AMR adopting One Health approach, integrated approach aiming at sustainably balancing and optimizing health of people, animals and ecosystems. WHO Good Manufacturing Practices (GMP) 2020 Inclusion of environmental aspects of manufacturing linked to waste management etc. National Action Plan on Containment of Antimicrobial Resistance (NAPMR) 2017 Ban on 40 fixed dose combinations (FDCs) which were found inappropriate. Ban on colistin as growth promoter in poultry. Development of antimicrobial vaccine AV0328, Bharat Biotech in collaboration with a US firm. Prime Minister envisions India as Global Green Hydrogen Hub at 2nd International Conference on Green Hydrogen, GH2. About green hydrogen, it refers to hydrogen produced through electrolysis, which splits water molecules, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen using electricity generated from renewable sources like solar, wind, hydro, etc. GH2 can also produce from biomass, which involves gasification of biomass to produce hydrogen. Union Cabinet approved PM Electric Drive Revolution in Innovative Vehicle Enhancement (PM E-Drive) scheme. The PM E-Drive will replace faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles in India Phase 2, FAME India Phase 2. This will be achieved by incorporating a phased manufacturing program, PMP, which encourages domestic manufacturing and strengthening of EV supply chain. This scheme, under Ministry of Heavy Industries, is approved with outlay of 10,900 crore rupees for 2 years for promotion of electric mobility in India. It is said to replace the flagship faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles, FAME, program. Additionally, Cabinet has also approved PMEBus Seva Payment Security Mechanism, PSM, scheme for procurement and operation of e-buses. Major components of PM E-Drive scheme subsidies and demand incentives to incentivize e-two-wheelers, e-three-wheelers, e-ambulances, e-trucks and other emerging electronic vehicles. Installation of electric vehicle public charging stations, EVPCS, in selected cities and on selected highways. Provision for procurement of e-buses by public transport agencies through Convergence Energy Services Limited, CSL. Test agencies to be modernized to deal with the new and emerging technologies to promote green mobility. Other initiatives taken in EV sector. National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, NEMMP, to encourage the adoption of EVs in India. Production Linked Incentive, PLI, scheme for the auto and auto component. PLI scheme for manufacturing advanced chemistry cell, ACC, batteries. Electric Mobility Promotion Scheme 2024, EMPS, with an outlay of 778 crore rupees for a period 6 months, April 2024 to September 2024, which provides incentives to buyers of two-wheelers, e-three-wheelers. Scheme to promote manufacturing of electric passenger cars. How does the scheme address the issue of range anxiety among EV buyers? Range anxiety is the fear that an electric vehicle's battery will run out before reaching a charging station, leaving the driver stranded. To alleviate range anxiety, the scheme allocates 2,000 crore rupees for setting up charging stations in select cities with high EV penetration and on specific highways. Union Cabinet approved Mission Mausam with an outlay of 2,000 crore rupees over 2 years. Mission Mausam is envisaged to be a multifaceted initiative to tremendously boost India's weather and climate-related science, research, and services. It is implemented by joint efforts of institutes of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, MOES, the India Meteorological Department, the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, and the National Centre for Union Cabinet approved Mission Mausam with an outlay of 2,000 crore rupees over 2 years. Mission Mausam is envisaged to be a multifaceted initiative to tremendously boost India's weather and climate-related science, research, and services. It is implemented by joint efforts of institutes of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, MOIS, the India Meteorological Department, the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, and the National Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting will primarily implement it. Other initiatives taken to improve weather forecasting are Monsoon Mission 2012. It enhanced dynamic modeling systems for improved short-range to seasonal monsoon forecasts. Weather Information Network and Data System, WINDS, to generate long-term, hyperlocal weather data. Launch of Earth Observation Satellites, INSAT 3D 2013, INSAT 3DR 2016, and INSAT 3DS. 2024 Ministry of Earth Sciences, MOIS, operationalized Pratyush and Mihir for weather forecasting in 2018. Inner Line Permit, ILP. State Government of Nagaland has approved the implementation of ILP in Chumokedima, Newland, and Dimapur districts. It's an official travel document issued by government that allows Indian citizens to travel into protected areas for a limited period. Genesis, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulations of 1873. There are different types of ILPs, one for tourists and others for long-term stays, often for employment purposes. States under ILP: Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Manipur. Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Tapi gas pipeline project. Gas extracted from Gokinish gas field in southeast Turkmenistan. Financing: Asian Development Bank. The route includes passing through key regions like Herat and Kandahar in Afghanistan and Balochistan in Pakistan before terminating in Fazilka, Punjab, in India. Trade Connect e-platform. It was launched by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It is a single-window initiative aimed at facilitating international trade by Indian exporters, especially MSMEs, by providing real-time access to trade-related information. Developed in collaboration with Ministry of MSME, Exim Bank, Department of Financial Service, and Ministry of External Affairs. Sarthi App. Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, in collaboration with Bhashini, have launched Sarthi Reference App to make e-commerce inclusive. Bhashini, 2022, under National Language Technology Mission, aims to provide technology translation services in 22 scheduled Indian languages. About Sarthi app, it aims to assist businesses in building buyer apps with multilingual features. Center approved transfer of 256 acres of salt pan land in Mumbai to Dharavi Redevelopment Project PVT Limited. About salt pan lands: they comprise parcels of low-lying lands where seawater flows in at certain times and leaves behind salt and other minerals. This ecosystem is instrumental in protecting the city from flooding. According to Wetland Conservation and Management Rules 2017, saltpen land is deleted from wetland definition. They are protected under Coastal Regulation Zone rules. The ecologically sensitive salt pans fall under CRZ 1B category, where no economic activity is allowed with the exception of salt extraction and natural gas exploration. Andhra Pradesh boasts the largest expanse of such land, followed by Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. National Florence Nightingale Awards. It was instituted by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 1973. Each award consists of a certificate of merit, cash award of 1 lakh rupees and a medal. Zimbabwe, capital, Harare. India has extended humanitarian assistance to Zimbabwe, Malawi and Zambia to mitigate food shortages caused by severe droughts linked to the El Niño phenomenon. The UAE and Oman are the only regional countries with which India holds Army, Air Force and Navy exercises. An expert group constituted by Niti Aayog has proposed a new Public Health Emergency Management Act, FEMA. At the 9th edition of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, China stopped short of providing the debt relief sought by many African countries, but pledged 360 billion yuan, $50.70 billion, over 3 years in credit lines and investments. The FOCAC has 53 African nations as its members, the entire continent except Eswatini, which has diplomatic ties with Taiwan against Beijing's One China policy. While addressing the Border Area Development Conclave, Defense Minister said that border area development is the best way to deal with geostrategic challenges. Vibrant Village Program. The Union Government approved the Vibrant Village Program for Development of Border Villages as a centrally sponsored scheme in 2023 for the financial years 2022-23 to 2025-26. It outlines the development of the 2,967 villages in 19 districts bordering China and Nepal in the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, and Union Territory of Ladakh. The objective of VVP is comprehensive development of these villages to improve the quality of life of people and thereby reversing out migration. It is also an effort to counter China's model villages called Xiaoken, moderately prosperous, villages opposite Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh very close to the line of control, raising apprehensions in the security establishment. More than 400 permanent bridges and notable projects like the Atal Tunnel, Sela Tunnel, and the upcoming Shikuntla Tunnel, which will be the world's highest tunnel, have been made under the Border Roads Organization's oversight. The Union Cabinet has approved extending Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, PMJ, health coverage to all senior citizens aged 70 and above, regardless of income. Key points. Eligible senior citizens will receive a distinct card to access their entitled benefits. Seniors already covered by a PMJ will receive an additional top-up of 5 lakh rupees annually for themselves. This top-up is separate from their family's existing coverage. Options for other health insurance schemes. Senior citizens covered under other public health insurance schemes such as the Central Government Health Scheme, CGHS, Ex-Servicemen Contributory Health Scheme, ECHS, and Ayushman Central Armed Police Force, CAF, can either retain their existing coverage or opt for a PMJ. Senior citizens under private health insurance or the Employees State Insurance, ESI, scheme are also eligible for a PMJ benefits. A PMJ is the world's largest publicly funded health assurance scheme. It provides 5 lakh rupees annual coverage per family for secondary and tertiary care hospitalizations. Eligibility based on Socioeconomic Caste Census 2011 for rural and urban areas. The scheme is being in 33 states and UTs except for the NCT of Delhi, West Bengal, and Odisha. Expenses covered up to 3 days of pre-hospitalization and 15 days of post-hospitalization expenses, example, diagnostics, medicines. No restrictions on family size, age, or gender. Coverage includes all pre-existing conditions from day one. The recent extension also includes free health care for 37 lakh accredited social health activists, ASHAs, Anganwadi workers, and helpers across the country. 50 special packages were designed for transgender health care needs, including sex reassignment surgery, SRS. Other schemes for senior citizens, Atal Vayo Abhyuday Yojana, to improve the quality of life of senior citizens. Senior Aging Growth Engine, SAGE, initiative to promote and incentivize senior care products and services. Senior able citizens for re-employment. In Dignity or Sacred Portal, to connect senior citizens with job providers in the private sector. PM Jai is an inclusive scheme covering transgender individuals among its beneficiaries. The National Anti-Fraud Unit, NAFU, designs, implements, and oversees anti-fraud initiatives within the scheme. According is the practice of fraudulent medical billing in which the bill for a medical service is more expensive than it should have been based on the service that was performed. Churchill, a remote Canadian town, has thrived on its unique status as the polar bear capital of the world. The town's proximity to the Hudson Bay attracts tourists who come to witness polar bears in their natural habitat. However, climate change is threatening this delicate ecosystem. Churchill's proactive response rather than succumbing to despair, Churchill's residents, government officials, and experts have adopted a proactive approach to adapt to these changes. India's BioE3 policy and the promise of organ-on-chip technology, bridging the gap to precision medicine. The BioE3 policy, which stands for Biotechnology for Economy, Environment and Employment, aims to foster high-performance biomanufacturing in India. It focuses on leveraging biotechnology to stimulate economic growth, protect the environment, and create job opportunities. Organ-on-chip technology, a rising star in the field of new approach methodologies, NAMS, offers a promising path towards achieving this goal. NAMS refer to innovative, non-animal methods for testing and assessing the safety and efficacy of drugs and chemicals. Organ-on-chips are miniature devices that replicate the functions of human organs in a controlled microenvironment, allowing researchers to study the effects of drugs on human cells and tissues with greater accuracy than traditional animal models. The Public Accounts Committee, PAC, is the oldest parliamentary committee in India, established in 1921 based on the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Originally chaired by the finance minister until 1950, the PAC underwent a significant transformation post-independence. It became a parliamentary committee under the control of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, with its chairperson traditionally being a member from the opposition. This practice, which began in 1967, supports the committee's role in providing unbiased scrutiny of the government's financial operations. The committee usually consists of 22 members, 15 from the Lok Sabha and 7 from the Rajya Sabha, selected by proportional representation using a single transferable vote. What significant changes have occurred in the PAC over time? Since its establishment, the PAC has seen several reforms. In 1950, it transitioned to being controlled by the parliamentary speaker with a non-executive chair from the opposition. In 1954, the inclusion of Rajya Sabha members enhanced its bicameral nature. The 1967 reform institutionalized the practice of an opposition chairperson to foster non-partisan scrutiny of government finances. The PAC reviews the reports of the Controller and Auditor General, CAG, on the appropriation of funds by the government, examining legality of expenditures, financial management and wastage, policy implementation effectiveness. The committee ensures that expenditures do not exceed the amounts sanctioned by Parliament and that they adhere to the stipulated financial regulations and policies. Can the PAC summon ministers or government officials? While the PAC has considerable powers to summon government officials for examinations, it does not have the authority to summon ministers. This provision helps maintain a focus on administrative accountability without direct political confrontation, adhering to the norms and procedures governed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. What is the role of the newly constituted Public Accounts Committee, PAC? The newly constituted PAC is responsible for scrutinizing government expenditures to ensure they are legal, economical, and efficiently used. The committee examines accounts associated with the Consolidated Fund of India, particularly focusing on audits reported by the Controller and Auditor General of India, CAG. What subjects has the PAC chosen for deliberation? The PAC, under the chairmanship of K.C. Venugopal, has selected 161 subjects for review during its current term, mostly based on reports from the CAG. Notably, the committee has also chosen to examine 5 subjects suo motu. These include reforms in the banking and insurance sectors, the implementation of centrally sponsored welfare schemes, policy measures in the energy transition, performance of regulatory bodies, and the management of fees and tariffs on public utilities. What powers does the PAC have in its deliberations? The PAC has extensive powers to examine the accounts and expenditures of the government beyond just legal compliance. Its mandate allows it to assess the wisdom, faithfulness, and economy of government spending. National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission. What is sickle cell disease, SCD? SCD is a genetic blood disorder that affects red blood cells. In people with SCD, the red blood cells become rigid and sickle-shaped, leading to blockages in blood vessels. It's a government initiative launched in 2023 aiming to eliminate sickle cell disease as a public health problem by 2047. The Chess Olympiad is the most prestigious team chess event held every 2 years. It involves national teams competing against each other in a series of matches. How has India performed historically at the Chess Olympiad? India has participated since 1956 and consistently since 1980. The country has won 2 bronze medals in 2014 and 2022. The 2024 team in Budapest is India's strongest ever, with the highest average ELO rating, a measure of chess skill, for any Indian team. It is ranked second only to the US in terms of ELO ratings. Who are some of the standout Indian players at the Chess Olympiad? D. Gukesh won an individual gold medal in 2022. Krishnan Shashikiran has played the most games for India and has a solid performance record. Viswanathan Anand, a former world champion, also has a good record at the Olympiad. Vidit Gujrathi has the highest performance ELO rating among Indians who have played at least 30 games. The emergence of talented young grandmasters like Arjun Erigaisi, D. Gukesh, and R. Pragnanandha. What is public stock holding, PSH? Public stock holding, PSH, refers to the practice where governments procure food grains from farmers at a predetermined price, known as the minimum support price, MSP, and store them in public warehouse. These stocks are then released strategically to ensure food security, stabilize domestic prices, and provide support to vulnerable populations. What are the WTO rules on PSH? The World Trade Organization, WTO, allows PSH programs, but they must adhere to specific rules. PSH programs are exempt from subsidy limits if the procurement is done at current market prices. However, if procurement is done at pre-announced administered prices, like MSP, it counts towards a country's overall limits on trade distorting support. WTO limits the subsidies on PSH. India also is under WTO rules that impact on farmers' incomes and consumer prices. India is under temporary exemption. Why is the African group seeking a permanent solution for PSH at the WTO? Many developing countries, including those in the African group, rely on PSH to support small-scale farmers and ensure food security. The current WTO rules limit the extent to which developing countries can use PSH, as procurement at administered prices is counted as a subsidy. A permanent solution would provide more flexibility for developing nations to implement PSH programs without the risk of exceeding their subsidy limits. Petagrams of carbon, PGC, is a unit to measure carbon. A petagram of carbon, Pg, also known as a gigaton, GT, is equal to 10-15 grams or 1 billion tons. A ton, also known as a metric ton, is equal to 1000 kilograms. Recently, Minister of State for Tourism pledged to renew the statue of Sakthan Thampuran. Sakthan Thampuran, Raja Rama Varma Kunjipillai or Rama Varma IX, is called as Sakthan Thampuran. Kingdom Cochin. Ruling period 1790 to 1805. Birth 1751. Parents Ambika Thampuran and Chendoz Aniyan Nambudiri of the Cochin royal family. He was raised by an aunt who called him Sakthan, meaning powerful. Cochin Kingdom, it was part of the late Chera Empire, covered the regions between Ponnani in Malappuram and Thottapalli in Alappuzha. Heir apparent, Sakthan Thampuran became heir apparent in 1769 as an 18-year-old. Strategist, he advised his king to maintain friendly relations with both the Dutch and the English. Travancore invasion, Sakthan is said to have orchestrated Mysore's attempt to invade the Travancore kingdom. Pauni Treaty, this would result in the Pauni Treaty which freed the Cochin kingdom from its allegiance to Mysore and helped formalize its relations with the British. Ending Yojatai Ripads, he ended the institution of the Yojatai Ripads, the erstwhile spiritual heads of the Vadakkunnathan and Perumanam temples. He entrusted temple management to the government from Yojatai Ripads. Capital transfer, he transferred the seat of the Cochin kingdom from Thripunithura to modern-day Thrissur. Trade encouragement, the king encouraged merchants of all religions and British officials to relocate to the city. Revenue management, he also overhauled and firmed up the kingdom's finances, personally overseeing revenue management. Thrissur Puram, he started the Thrissur Puram in 1797 as an alternative to the Arattupuzha Puram. The Thrissur Puram was conceived as an opportunity for the major temples in Thrissur to come to pay their respects to Lord Shiva, the presiding deity at the Vadakkunnathan temple. Operation Bhedia. It is the effort of Uttar Pradesh Department Forest Department to capture wild wolves in the Bahraich region. IAF conducted symposium on air domain awareness during exercise Tarang Shakti 2024. It is a major multinational air combat exercise organized by the Indian Air Force, IAF, marking India's largest international air combat event. SCBI has updated the rules for the registration and eligibility of foreign venture capital investors, FVCIs. Under the new framework, the process of registering FVCIs and managing post-registration activities will be handled by designated depository participants, DDPs, similar to the system for foreign portfolio investors, FPIs. Applicants must engage a DDP, which will also serve as the custodian for FVCIs. Key updates include, they must hold their investments in Demat form starting 1st January 2025. Resident Indians, RIs, non-resident Indians, NRIs, and overseas citizens of India, OCI, can be contributors to an FVCI, but with limitations. no single individual can contribute more than 25%, and their combined contribution should not exceed 50%. FVCIs must appoint a domestic custodian for monitoring and reporting to SCBI. The Standing Committee of the National Board for Wildlife, SCNBWL, has cleared multiple projects. A transmission line in Little Run of Kutch, a controversial transmission line project in Goa's Molam National Park, as well as a clutch of infrastructure projects in tiger corridors of central India. The National Board for Wildlife, NBWL, is a statutory organization under the Wildlife Protection Act, 1972. It was constituted in 2003, replacing the Indian Board for Wildlife, which was formed in 1952. Chaired by the Prime Minister of India, it serves as the top advisory body on matters concerning wildlife conservation and protection. Vice Chairperson, the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Mechanism of transmission of SARS-CoV-2 virus. Once sent entry into the body, the SARS-CoV-2 virus is primarily transmitted through respiratory droplets or aerosols when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks. It can also spread via contact with contaminated surfaces. The virus typically enters the body through the nose, mouth, or eyes and travels down the respiratory tract. To ND binding to host cell, SARS-CoV-2 has a characteristic spike protein, S protein, on its surface, which plays a critical role in infection. The spike protein specifically binds to a receptor on the surface of human cells known as ACE2, angiotensin-converting enzyme 2. These ACE2 receptors are found in high concentrations in the lungs, heart, kidneys, and intestines, which explains why the virus can affect multiple organs. 3-RD fusion and entry into the host cell. After binding to the ACE2 receptor, the virus either fuses with the cell membrane and releases its genetic material directly into the host, or enters the host cell through endocytosis, where the cell engulfs the virus, forming a vesicle that brings it inside. This step is crucial for the virus to inject its RNA into the host cell, initiating the infection process. 4th replication of viral RNA. SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus. Once inside the cell, the virus releases its RNA, which hijacks the host cell's machinery, ribosomes, to produce viral proteins and replicate the viral RNA. The host cell treats the viral RNA as if it were its own mRNA, messenger RNA, translating it into viral proteins like the spike protein, nucleocapsid, membrane proteins, etc. 5th assembly of new viruses. Newly made viral proteins and RNA molecules are then assembled into new viral particles, virions, within the host cell. These components come together in special compartments within the cell, like the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, to form complete new viruses. 6th release of new viruses. Once enough new virus particles are made, they are released from the infected host cell. These new viruses then infect nearby cells, spreading the infection throughout the body. What is an antibody? They are proteins produced by the immune system that neutralize any foreign substance, bacteria, virus, entering the human body. An antibody attaches itself to an antigen, a foreign substance, usually a disease-causing molecule, and helps the immune system eliminate it from the body. What is a monoclonal antibody? Monoclonal antibodies are laboratory-made proteins that mimic the behavior of antibodies produced by the immune system to protect against diseases and foreign substances. Monoclonal antibodies are specifically designed to target certain antigens. How do monoclonal antibodies work? Monoclonal antibodies are specifically engineered and generated to target a disease. They are meant to attach themselves to the specific disease-causing antigen. An antigen is most likely to be a protein. For example, most successful monoclonal antibodies during the pandemic were engineered to bind to the spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. The binding prevented the protein from exercising its regular functions, including its ability to infect other ancient monuments and archaeological sites and remains. Amshra Act, the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act, Amshra Act, was enacted by the Indian Parliament in 1958. Role of the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. The ASI operates under the provisions of the Amshra Act. It is responsible for carrying out the Act's objectives, including the protection and conservation of designated monuments and archaeological sites. Regulations on protected areas. The Amshra Act designates a 100-meter radius around each monument as a prohibited area, where no construction or alteration except certain circumstances is allowed without permission. The central government can extend the prohibited area beyond 100 meters. An additional 200-meter area is classified as regulated, where any construction or modifications require prior approval. The National Monuments Authority, NMA, established under the Act, is the regulatory body responsible for overseeing activities within these zones and granting necessary permissions. Amendments. The Act was amended in 2010 to strengthen penal provisions against encroachments and illegal constructions near monuments. Establishment of a 100-meter prohibited area around national monuments, with a 200-meter regulated zone where construction requires NMA approval. Introduction of heritage bylaws for individual monuments, prepared by expert bodies to address specific needs. The Act provided a clear statutory definition of prohibited and regulated areas around monuments, establishing precise guidelines for land use in these regions. Ancient monument defined as any structure, erection, monument, or site of historical, archaeological, or artistic interest that has existed for at least 100 years. Archaeological sites and remains, areas containing ruins or relics of historical or archaeological significance, also existing for not less than 100 years. The Amshra, Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains, Amendment Bill was first introduced in the Lok Sabha in 2017 by the Minister of Tourism and Culture. Amshra Amendment Bill, 2017. This bill seeks to amend the original Act, which was enacted in 1958 to protect ancient monuments and archaeological sites. Key amendments: construction in prohibited areas. The bill allows for public works to be constructed in these prohibited areas. This includes infrastructure projects deemed necessary by the central government for public welfare. Approval process for construction. The bill stipulates that any construction, reconstruction, repair, or renovation within these prohibited areas must be approved. The relevant central government department must submit an application to the competent authority. The central government will then assess whether the construction qualifies as a public work and will communicate its decision to the applicant within 10 days. Definition of public works. The bill introduces a specific definition for public works: construction works related to infrastructure financed and carried out by any central government department or office for public purposes, necessary for public safety or security, and where no viable alternative exists beyond the prohibited area. Assessment requirements. The bill also expands the scope of impact assessments required for public works. It includes considerations of archaeological, visual, and heritage impacts in the prohibited areas. Rationale: the central government has argued that the prohibition on new construction within protected areas is hindering public works and developmental projects. They believe the amendment is necessary to facilitate infrastructure development while balancing the need to preserve historical sites. Current status: the amendment bill was passed in January 2018. It was then referred to a select committee in the Rajya Sabha. The committee's report, submitted in 2019, recommended evaluating the area limit for prohibiting construction on a case-by-case basis rather than applying a blanket 100-meter restriction. It also raised concerns about the definition of public works, noting that it excludes certain public utility projects such as metro construction, which do not directly relate to safety and security. The committee suggested the bill be passed following consultations with central and state governments and relevant departments. It also provided observations and recommendations for drafting notifications and rules related to the bill. About National Monuments Authority, NMA. The National Monuments Authority, NMA, was established under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, in accordance with the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains, AMARSH, Amendment and Validation, Act, 2010. Enacted in 2010, this act aimed to enhance the protection and preservation of India's rich cultural heritage by managing the areas surrounding centrally protected monuments. Responsibilities: protection and preservation. The NMA is tasked with the critical role of safeguarding monuments and archaeological sites through effective management of the prohibited and regulated zones around these sites. Managing prohibited and regulated areas, ensuring that activities within these areas do not compromise the integrity and preservation of the monuments. Granting permissions, reviewing and approving construction-related activities within the prohibited and regulated areas to prevent potential damage to the heritage sites. Addressing urbanization and development. With the surge in urbanization, population growth, and development pressures, there is increasing strain on land, including those areas around centrally protected monuments. Balancing development and preservation, regulating growth and construction around these monuments to balance the needs of urban development with the essential requirements for preservation and protection of heritage sites. Public scrutiny. The NMA is required to scrutinize heritage bylaws and obtain public objections and suggestions before granting approvals. Organizational structure. The Act mandates the constitution of the NMA with a chairperson, up to 5 whole-time and 5 part-time members, and a member secretary. The Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, serves as an ex officio member. Grading and classification. The NMA is also responsible for grading and classifying monuments to streamline their management and preservation. About Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. The Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, is a prominent government agency tasked with archaeological research, conservation, and preservation of cultural and historical monuments across India. Historical background. Cunningham, with his expertise in Brahmi, conducted extensive surveys of Buddhist monuments across India. Despite early challenges, he advocated for the establishment of a formal archaeological body. The ASI was founded in 1861 by Alexander Cunningham, who also served as its first Director General. This initiative marked the beginning of systematic archaeological research in India. Predecessors. The Asiatic Society, founded by British Indologist Sir William Jones in 1784, conducted early research into India's history. The society, based in Calcutta, published Asiatic researches and made significant contributions to the study of ancient Persian texts. Notable early members, such as Charles Wilkins, translated the Bhagavad Gita into English, furthering the understanding of Indian heritage. Early efforts, James Prinsep's successful decipherment of the Brahmi script in 1837 was a pivotal moment, greatly enhancing the understanding of ancient Indian inscriptions and history. Expansion and reform. The 1958 Amritsar Act placed the ASI under the Ministry of Culture, and the Antiquities and Art Treasures Act, 1972, ensured national protection for important monuments. Organization and structure. The ASI is headed by a Director General, supported by an additional Director General, 2 Joint Director Generals, and 17 directors. The organization operates under the Ministry of Culture. The ASI administers over 3,650 monuments and sites of national importance, including temples, mosques, forts, and other historical structures. Scientific preservation. Establishment of the Science Branch, founded in 1917 by Muhammad Sanaullah Khan. The Science Branch focuses on preserving and chemically treating artifacts. The branch has expanded its scope to include material analysis and conservation. Fatehpur Sikri, located Uttar Pradesh. Founded by Akbar in 1571 as the Mughal Empire's capital. It served as the capital until 1585, when Akbar abandoned it for a campaign in Punjab, and it was completely abandoned by 1610. Named after the former village of Sikri, the site has revealed ancient temples through ASI excavations. Previously controlled by the Sakarwar Rajputs until 1527. Akbar constructed a religious compound and later a walled city here, calling it Fatehpur Sikri, or City of Victory. Following his Gujarat campaign in 1573. Recognized for its historical significance and architecture, Fatehpur Sikri was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1986. Atala Masjid, or Atala Mosque. It is a 14th century mosque in Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh. Built on the site of the Atala Devi temple, demolished in 1364, construction began in 1376 under Firuz Shah Tughlaq, with materials from demolished temples. The mosque was completed by Ibrahim Shah Sharki in 1408. The mosque features a central courtyard with the Madrasa Din Dunya. It has 3 large gateways and has a central dome, nearly 17 meters high. Recently, the Supreme Court in its ruling emphasized the importance of seniority and effective consultation in the appointment of High Court judges. In a case involving the Himachal Pradesh High Court Collegium, the Supreme Court ruled that a lack of effective consultation in judicial appointments falls within the scope of judicial review. It directed a reconsideration of 2 judicial officers recommended for elevation, highlighting the importance of procedural adherence. What is the background of case and Supreme Court ruling? Background: in December 2022, the Himachal Pradesh HC Collegium recommended to district judges for elevation to HC judges. However, the SC Collegium requested reconsideration on this, prompting a further review. Later, HC Collegium recommended to other judicial officers. The initially recommended judges challenged this decision in the SC, arguing their seniority was overlooked. Supreme Court ruling maintainability. The Supreme Court assessed whether it had jurisdiction to review appointment recommendations. referencing the second and third judges' cases. It ruled that its review focused solely on whether effective consultation occurred after the Supreme Court Collegium's resolution, without evaluating the candidate's merits or suitability. Recently, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has come up with draft guidelines for the Central Financial Assistance and Payment Security Mechanism for the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. The draft guidelines have been issued under the Renewable Energy Services Company (RESCO) model and Utility-Led Asset (ULA) model of the Rooftop Solar Scheme PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Renewable Energy Services Company (RESCO) model. RESCO develops and owns the rooftop solar system installed on the consumer's rooftop for at least 5 years. The RESCO also makes all the operational expenditures required for the maintenance of the plant as needed. Customers pay the RESCO for the electricity generated and receive net metering benefits on their electricity bill. The RESCO may enter into an arrangement with a distribution company, DISCOM, for the sale of generated power to the grid under a power purchase agreement. Utility-Led Asset (ULA) model. Under it, a state DISCOM owns the rooftop solar systems for the project period of at least 5 years, after which the ownership is transferred to the household. What is PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana? It is a central scheme to promote the adoption of solar rooftop systems by providing substantial financial subsidies and ensuring ease of installation. Objective: it aims to provide free electricity to 1 crore households in India who opt to install rooftop solar electricity units. The households will be able to get 300 units of electricity free every month. Implementation agencies. The scheme will be executed at 2 levels. National level, managed by the National Program Implementation Agency, NPI. State level, managed by State Implementation Agencies, SIAs, which are the distribution utilities, DISCOMs, or power departments of the respective states or union territories. Additional features of the scheme: Model Solar Villages. A model solar village will be developed in each district to serve as a demonstration project and promote rooftop solar. Adoption in rural areas. What are the other government initiatives to harness solar energy? 1. Sun, One World, One Grid. Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana, Saubhagya, National Smart Grid Mission, NSGM, and Smart Meter National Program. What is Virtual Smart Grid Knowledge Center, Virtual SGKC? Located within the Power Grid Center in Manesar, Haryana, Virtual Smart Grid Knowledge Center, Virtual SGKC, is the first of its kind initiative by the Union Government. SGKC aims to be one of the leading centers of excellence globally to foster innovation, entrepreneurship and research in smart grid technologies and create capacities in the power distribution sector. It will enable a digital footprint of the physical setup of SGKC, the need for which was felt during COVID-19 pandemic. International Solar Alliance, ISA. National Solar Mission. Solar Park Scheme. Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uthan Mahabhiyan PM Kusum. The PM Kusum was launched by the MNRE in 2019 in order to enable installation of off-grid solar pumps in rural areas and reduce dependence on grid in grid-connected areas. Recently, the 22nd edition of the India-France bilateral naval exercise Varuna took place in the Mediterranean Sea. In Stabar, a frontline stealth frigate, shipborne helicopter and LRMR aircraft P-8I participated from the Indian side, while French side was represented by FS Provence, submarine Suffren, aircraft F-20 Atlantic II, fighters MB-339 and NH-90 Dolphin helicopters. These joint exercises are conducted either in the Indian Ocean or the Mediterranean Sea. Operations conducted: advanced naval operations, including tactical maneuvers, anti-submarine warfare exercises, flight exercises, air defense exercises, live weapon firings, photoex, photographic exercise, and steam past. Gram Nyayalayas, or village courts, are established under the Gram Nyayalayas Act, 2008, for speedy and easy access to the justice system in the rural areas of India. The Act extends to the whole of India, except to the states of Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and Sikkim, and to the tribal areas specified in the 6th Schedule to the Constitution of India. What is meant by summary procedure in a criminal trial? Summary trials are mentioned in Chapter 21 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, 1973. In this trial, the cases are disposed of speedily as the procedure is simplified and the recording of such cases are done summarily. In this type of trial, only the offences which fall into the small petty category are tried. Complex cases are reserved for warrant or summons trials. To determine whether a case should be tried summarily, the facts stated in the complaint form the primary basis. The objective of summary trials is the expeditious disposal of cases to lessen the burden on the judiciary. Bovine animal Mithun has been spotted in Assam for the first time, Chief Minister said recently. The Mithun or Ghayal, Bos frontalis, is a heavily built, semi-domesticated bovine species. Mithun is believed to have originated more than 8,000 years ago and is considered to be a descendant of wild Indian gaur or bison. It is known as the cattle of the mountain. Distribution: the highest concentration of Mithuns in the world is spread over the northeastern region of India, with Arunachal Pradesh having the highest population. It is the state animal of Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland. The Sulang festival is observed annually by the Adi tribes of Arunachal Pradesh to commemorate the birth and arrival of Mithun on this earth. Physical features: Mithun appears somewhat similar to that of Gaur, Indian bison, but is smaller in size. Conservation status: IUCN Red List, vulnerable. Cites Appendix I. What is Indian gaur? The Indian gaur is the largest and tallest in the family of wild cattle. Gaurs are indigenous to the south and southeast parts of Asia. They prefer hilly terrains below an altitude of 1,500 to 1,800 meters with large and undisturbed forest tracts and abundant water. The Indian bison is about 240 centimeters to 340 centimeters in length. Recently, a southern birdwing butterfly has been found on the satellite campus of the American College in Madurai district of Tamil Nadu. It is also called the Sahyadri birdwing, and it is India's second largest butterfly species. Distribution: it is a large and striking butterfly species found in South Asia.